Hello, AV Tweeps and AV Tweeps adjacent. Welcome to brAVe Space, or in this case, brAVe Skills. I am one of your hosts of brAVe Skills, Britt Yenser, and I have with me
Leon Prather, another one of your hosts of brAVe Skills.
And in brAVe Skills, the practical offshoot of the brAVe Space podcast, we talk about leadership, being human beings, and things that are related to corporate culture and just being a successful professional. We do have some disclaimers for you before we start the conversation, and they are that opinions expressed are our own and they don't necessarily represent our institutions, companies, or sponsors of the show, and that we're not necessarily experts in what we're talking about. We are AV professionals who have opinions that you came to listen to.
But hopefully you find some kind of common ground with us, or not, just sharing different perspectives. But either way, I think we could just get straight into the show.
Let's do it.
So we've been talking about, we've been kind of going through these sort of mini conversations recently, and they all stemmed from the idea of, like some habits that leaders could have, different sort of mental habits that leaders could have. And the last episode we did was, oh shoot, what was the last episode? Last episode we did was believing you're enough. That's what it was. But this time around, I wanted to actually go into another topic of asking for help, which I actually think is kind of related to that. I didn't realize until 20 minutes before we started. So that said, you could see this as maybe a part two if you have watched part one. And if you have not watched part one, go do that, or listen to part one because you can. So anyway, Britt, the topic of asking for help, that's something that we all have to do at some point, right? Barbara Streisand said something about people needing people or something like that. I don't actually know the song, and I'm sure otherwise folks have potentially said similar things. But why do you think you agreed to do this topic? Why do you think that this is such a perfect topic for us to do?
I think that this is potentially something that people struggle with. I know it's something that I struggle with sometimes. We know anecdotally like that asking for help is a good thing and it's a normal thing. And we have phrases like it takes a village. And yet there can be a part of us that is hesitant to ask for help. So I was really interested in unpacking where those blocks might be, and just having that conversation to help people potentially move forward from the mental block or shift their mindset in a way that allows them to ask for help.
What do we think? Is there a right way? Like what would, if someone were to say, what's the right way to ask for help? What would you say? Let's have some scenarios. First one being, you need to ask help from other teams, other people who aren't in your direct sphere of influence. Is there a right way to ask for help?
To me, I think it's to have like the soft touch, to just say like, hey, start with the hi. To be honest with you, sometimes that sounds like such a dumb simple thing, but sometimes I am so in my head and so trying to get things done, I will just fire off a message to someone and be like, oh, and also hello. Like, I'm sorry, I forgot to be a human in that moment. So like stay grounded in your humanity, have that soft touch of like, hey, how are you? I'm wondering if you might have the bandwidth to help me with this thing. And I think it's helpful to include context of why you're tagging them in. So, like, what expertise do they have? What resource did they have that you specifically are trying to tap?
I love that you mentioned the context. We live in a time where we text each other a lot of things, right? And I have, whether it's work related or not, and I have had times where someone sends me things like an image or a file, and there's no context. It's just a thing. And I've actually had to say, I was talking to my wife about this a few months ago. Honey, when you send me a link, I need to know why, because I don't actually know what I'm supposed to do with it. I will look at it, but I don't know what I'm supposed to respond to. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff on the page, and I can't figure it out. I know there's a reason, and I'm more than happy to fill whatever that space is, but I actually don't know what the space is. Sometimes
Yeah.
even professionally, you're asked to do something, or you're asked to come into a scenario, and you're like, "Why am I here?" That's
Yeah, I mean,
weird.
you have the memes online that are like when you get added to an email chain that's been going on for 2 weeks and you have to
Mhm,
figure out why you have been added to the chain. Like,
mhm,
that's really frustrating. So, I do my best to, if I need to rope someone into a conversation that is already being had, I basically am like, hey, person, how are you? Too long, didn't read. This is what this email chain is about.
mhm.
And this is why I'm including you. Could you do X, Y, and Z? Like, please don't make people play detective in an email chain that has 30 emails.
Yeah. We have a team member who's onboarding right now, and our vice president brought them into a team chat. And when she did that, she chose the option that said include all chat history. And she told us that she did that. And I jokingly said, I feel like that's corporate hazing.
Yeah.
It's like it was a silly group chat, but I was like, I think that's a lot to go through. But the point wasn't to give her more work. It was just to kind of show this is who you're working with, and this is the craziness that is our brains. But I just thought about something that's from a different perspective globally. I was just hearing about this from someone that was French. They were saying if you are, so we're stateside. If you don't know from our very American accents, um, in France, if you don't greet people, like you just want service, you're going into a boulangerie. I was going to say French words, a bakery, a boulangerie. You go into a bakery or something like that, or a cafe, and you just start saying, I want X, Y, and Z, give me this. That is a huge, huge problem.
Mm,
Every request for help is supposed to start with a greeting. Just addressing that this is a human and not a machine, there to serve you. It is a person with a pulse. Um, I would I want to pivot to the same question, but thinking about um, other team members. Now, let's say that you're a manager, because we're managers, and a lot of the people that listen to this, I think, are managers. When you need help, which is a thing, you need help
mhm.
not just from people who are above you or maybe lateral to you in a company. You need help from people who are not. Is there a difference in the way that you might approach that?
Well, let me kind of answer your question by asking a question. In
Mhm.
your mind, is asking for help different from delegating?
Um, is it that's a good question, because I think delegating can sometimes be seen as I'm just giving work to be done. Um, I think there's an approach to delegation that also bridges with collaboration a bit. So
Mhm,
we actually do this on the team that I'm on right now. My director brings a project to our team, myself and another PM, and we'll talk through what it is that we need to do, and then things get delegated from that point. He needs the things done, but he doesn't maybe care which one of us is doing them. So he's saying, this is what I'm needing. This is the part I can take. Can you do X, Y, and Z? And sometimes there's a little bit of a lean forward and saying, this is what I need you to do. But I think the difference with delegation also sometimes is there's a team building aspect to it sometimes too,
mhm,
because you're also trying to coach and give opportunities for growth.
mhm,
So what I'm thinking more about is something that's specifically a thing where it's outside of your capacity to do a thing, certainly by yourself, and you
mhm,
need another person to take something on. So for me, I would say maybe in one of my answers would be, it's not that there's a difference in the way, because in my mind, the way to ask for help is to be very transparent about what it is you're needing and why, which is what you were saying as well. So it doesn't really matter so much who I'm asking, but because of status isn't the right word, because of my relationship with someone, I may need to give even more context there, because you just brought up a good point about delegation. I'm needing I may not be giving someone something where I'm giving them 100% responsibility over the outcome, but I'm needing their help. I might be responsible for the outcome. So I might need to make sure that this person understands I'm not going to be I'm not intending to, rake you over the coals if something goes wrong with this. you know, um I appreciate the support that you're giving, as well as I'm well aware that I may need to take something else off your plate right there. So that there's more context I think that I would give. I don't know if you feel differently about that.
No, I agree. I agree with how you're defining the difference between delegation and asking for help and the approach that you would take. That's very much where my mind went as well. And I think one thing I would add to that is, because I am asking for help and not delegating, I would not expect for the task to be done in a particular way.
Mhm.
So I think that sometimes we get caught up in our own personal world where we are the main character, and in our personal world there's a right way to do something, right? And I think
Mhm.
sometimes that blocks us from asking for help, because in our world it has to be done this way. But if we were to step out of our little inner world into reality where other humans live, it might not be true that there is a quote unquote right way to do
Mhm.
that task. And it doesn't have to be exactly specifically how you would have done it, as long as it is accomplished successfully.
Yeah. Outcomes, I think, are what I try to focus on. It helps me because I actually had a problem with what you just said, where I had I say today that I wholeheartedly believe in training myself out of a job when it comes to people that are um, on a team that I might be leading. One, because it's good for their growth, but it does also enable me to move into other things, and that's just the quality of the training I like to give. That's sort of the outcome that I'm wanting to have. However, the first time I ever hired someone to do or to take on a lot of the things that I once owned, this is the team was growing, so I went from a team of one to we're doubling, so it's a team of two, right? The I only had one junior person underneath me at this point, and a lot of things that I had built over the years, I now had to give over to someone else to handle.
Mhm.
And I had to sort of reconcile this idea in my mind of I have done everything a certain way for such a long time. And in training, it was a lot of this is exactly how I do it. And this is the why. I'm trying to save you time from having to figure these things out. But then I realized at some point I'm giving someone too much to cram into their brains. The first thing I needed them to understand was just the outcomes that we're looking for, because once I'm not owning it, they are. They're gonna find a way, hopefully, that's the right way to solve a problem when that problem arises 2 years from now. I haven't dealt with that problem for 3 years, you know?
Mhm.
Our context is different, and I really had to sit and think about that I didn't have a problem where the team member said that there was an issue, but the sign for me that there was an issue was I would hear him saying things about, "Well, this is how Leon would do it," or so and so, and I was like, "Oh, wait, I'm not trying to make a carbon copy of me.
Right.
I didn't hire this person to be a carbon copy of me. They're very different from me. I need to make sure their strengths are coming out." So, uh, yeah, those are great points that you bring up there.
Yeah, I think we have to really keep in mind that not everyone thinks the same way that we do.
Mhm.
I'm currently in the middle of reading Temple Grandin's Visual Thinking. which I really, really recommend because it is a really clear insight into how not all brains are the same, and I feel like that's a pretty generic statement. Not all brains are the same. Like most people be like, yeah, no, duh. But like, I think that she really explains that really well in a way that you're like, oh, now we're really diving into what that means and
Mhm.
getting an understanding of how someone like actively could think extremely different from the way that I do. And that I think that having that understanding is something that helps me to ask for help, to have an innate understanding of this person straight up might not think the way I do. Their brain is
Mhm.
firing in a completely different way. So when I ask, can you do this thing? It is very likely that they are not going to do it the way I would have done it, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. And it doesn't mean that it's not helpful.
Yeah. I have another example of a time where I had to ask for help, or a specific example where I had to ask for help. I was dealing with I think about this now and I'm going, if this person's listening to this, they will know who I'm talking about. I mean, we lived it, so it's
Uh-huh.
okay. No names will be used, but they will know. um, I had an opportunity to lead a much larger team than I had led in a while, and the team was already formed, and there were some dynamics within the team, and I sort of came in as a stranger, and there was a different direction that we were taking the team, which was meaning as far as its responsibilities, which was meaning everyone was going to have to was going to be dealing with some kind of growing pains and some shifting. Not a single person would not have been, myself included. And um, during that time, I noticed pretty quickly that there was a attitude uh, toward me as the leader that I couldn't quite put my finger on where it was coming from. And having conversation about things was not going very well. I'm pretty open. So if I think there's something to confront, I'm going to at least ask about it. I'm going to say things. We've said them, some of them on this show. This is what I'm hearing. Is this right? Like, is this what
Mhm.
you're feeling? Um, this is what it seems like to me. Can we talk through that? What is it that's causing this issue? Am I causing, And it very much was met with just just nothing. No one they didn't want to move forward in the conversation. Well, I ended up reaching out to our president, who was really big into leadership development in general, and said, "This is the issue I'm having. I'm going to explain these scenarios to you. You've not been looking at them, but what are you like?" I needed another perspective.
Mhm.
I had kind of asked for help in understanding what was going on in the scenario with the person that was directly involved with. I wasn't
Mhm.
getting anywhere, and so I had to go. I thought, let me go another way and say, "What are you seeing? Can you give me a tip here?" And that was really, really helpful. It was really helpful for me. They could show kind of a mirror to me on things. It was essentially what I was looking for, to show me some practices that I had that they thought were probably causing some of the issues. Lo and behold, it turns out there were other leadership issues already going on way before I was over there. As far as respect for folks, it just compounded once they got a new person just kind of out of the blue. So yeah, asking for help from we're talking like multiple levels over me.
Mhm.
Um, on one hand, I was a little nervous about it because I was thinking, man, they just put me in this big role and I'm immediately asking for this. Is this going to look like I can't handle it? Um, Fortunately, they didn't see it that way. They saw it as more of a compliment, that I would be willing to. So I would want to ask from that example: Are there times where you feel like asking for help could be for you, um, more challenging, or someone that identifies in some way that someone, I'm gonna say someone like you, Britt, whatever that means for you.
Whatever that means
Um,
to me.
yeah,
You
that
know?
could be more challenging than other times.
I think for me, it really depends on the way the organization is structured, and the culture of the organization makes a big difference to me about whether or not I feel comfortable asking for help. So, for example, my CIO at my current institution makes it very clear that he sees himself as our colleague, and even though he's structured all the way at the top, and is the lead of our department, he doesn't carry himself like he is this like disembodied lead. Like he carries himself like, I am a member of your team. I want to know and understand what is going on with you. My door is open, and he's just very like communicative, and and makes it clear he wants to be helpful to the people on his team. Um, that makes me feel more comfortable approaching him and asking for help, because he's just made it so clear that that's something that is not only acceptable but almost like expected. He expects you to go to his office and ask for help. So um that's huge to me. I think that if he didn't set that expectation and make it clear that his door is open, like, I would never approach the CIO. I would never
Sure,
feel
sure.
like my problem is worth going to, like, because like to me it's like, well, he's busy and I have to figure out my little thing because I'm just the manager, I'm too far below. But like, he's like, no, we're colleagues. There's no such thing as too far below.
Yeah. That's a great way of thinking about it. We talk a lot about teams, and every person on a team has a role, and regardless of what that role is, we are all after the same, responsible for. Um, we all contribute to the overall outcomes for the team,
Mhm.
um, in different ways, and you've got to make sure that the team's healthy. And sometimes members of it need assistance from somewhere. I love that you're mentioning the concept of the open door policy.
Mhm.
So we can sort of flip this around as we probably pretty close to a close, to be honest, but flip this around to the idea of asking for help, not you asking for help, but making it easy for others to ask for your help.
Mhm.
Um, there's a practice that I have now, partly for my own sanity, but also because I'm trying to be helpful to people I work with. I block off my calendar. For example, I block off my calendar. Um, there's a point in every day that I have marked off as focus time,
Mhm.
and my team, not necessarily. Oh my gosh, return of the
I love this.
return of the AI animations. Oh, if you're listening, and you haven't yet watched one of these videos, you're missing out, because there's oftentimes there's oftentimes a visual blooper like what just happened, and will not be edited out, where I just somehow triggered fireworks to go off behind me in our video chat here. Anyway, if you so switch over to the video feed and you'll see that. Um, anyway, I block off focus time, and anyone that's on a team that I work closely with, I actually tell them that you'll see focus time on my calendar, and it is blocked off. And I will actually say, during that time, you and only the people I've told, if you think you need to kind of ping me for something, it's okay.
Mm.
Like, I'm not actually closed to you. I'm closing the door to a lot of other people because I can't be open to everybody all the time. But I try to make sure that they're not going to be stuck in a lurch. These people that I work really closely with, and they make themselves available to me as well. So having a signal, like the open door, we're mostly remote, so an open door is a little bit hard to signify um, when you're doing this kind of thing
Mhm.
via cameras. Um, do you have any practices that you have for the equivalent of an open door policy, or uh, helping folks know when they can approach you?
Yeah, so similar to like the model that my CIO has set, I make it clear that I am colleague. I don't consider myself above or superior to anybody else. So I work hard to build relationships with everyone on the team, regardless of where they might fall on the org chart, and just keep it very like personable, like check in with people and let them know like if you have a question or if you need help with something, especially when you're in the higher environment of like help desk processes the call, they're tier 1 support. I let them know like I do not want you to feel like you are left hanging. So if anything ever pops that you're not sure about, like don't be afraid to ask me a question. And because I'm usually physically in the office, there's the literal physical open door. But I do a similar thing with time blocking but it's almost like the opposite, where I will block off my calendar in this is deep focus. Please only ping me if something's on fire, which I probably should stop saying because we had a literal fire. But that's a story for another time. But
why is my reaction, ooh, fire?
Ooh, fire.
Isn't that awesome?
Because we're all cavemen secretly. But like if you see unblocked, it means I'm busy, but I like my whole day isn't blocked. I'm gonna strategically leave time open for you.
Yeah, strategically leave time open for you. I like that. Hashtag don't suffer in silence. Hashtag strategically leave time open for you.
Hashtag fire.
And hashtag I don't think that's the right one to follow that up with, Britt. I almost said it too. It's like, yeah, hashtag no, I don't think so. Oh, I guess it's a Gen Z thing though. Fire's good, right? Fire's good.
I think so. Yeah, I mean the young people make me think that the fire emoji is like a good thing, I think. Yeah.
If I were to send a flame to anybody, it's a bad thing. Honestly, I would find the letters FIRE faster than I would find the fire emoji though. So if it was a real emergency, I'm probably not sending an emoji. And this is not important at all. But I think everyone now knows that we're not as young as they might have before. That's why I said shoot a second ago. It's like, oh shoot, they know I'm not in Gen Z. They know I'm not in Gen Z.
I think they know from the everything about us that we're not Gen Z.
My millennial is showing. Yeah. Well, I feel like we've got a lot of action items here. We actually probably could have talked about this for a long time. But I'm remembering like 2 of the action items. What do you remember?
Kick us off.
Oh, okay. Well, the one that I just said, when it comes to asking for help, a really important thing to think about is just not suffering in silence, knowing that you can reach out to folks and it's going to be better for you and for others if you do. And then conversely, helping others not suffer in silence too by strategically leaving yourself open for them, or strategically let's edit that, strategically making time for them.
Awesome. Yes. And I would add to, as best as you can, let go of certain expectations. Understand that they might do something a little bit differently from what you would have done, but it doesn't mean that they did it wrong. And it doesn't mean that they're not being helpful.
You know what? I'm not going to say that. Okay, I do have one thing to cut out here. No, I'm going to say it. I do sometimes like to tell, I joke with my wife that everyone is entitled to their own opinions. I'm kidding. What I actually say is, no, that's totally fine. Everyone's entitled to be wrong every once in a while. She doesn't find it funny.
Leon, do I have to hold your hand while I tell you there's not a right way to fold towels?
Hold the phone. You and my wife been having a conversation about folding towels because I don't think that there is a right or wrong way, but I do it differently than she does. where is this coming from, Britt?
It's just the first thing that came to mind. Maybe we're just so connected now that I was like, this will speak to him.
We're going to be watching this episode together. My wife watches the episodes when they come out. We're going to be watching the episode, and I'm going to look at her, and as soon as you say that, she's going to be looking at me. Anyway, let's close this one.
Yeah, thank you all for sticking around and listening to this episode of brAVe Skills. We are your hosts, Britt, Yenser, and
Leon Prather.
And that's the end of the show. I forget how we close.
If you want more episodes or content like this, you can find us on LinkedIn. You can find the brAVe Space and brAVe Skills podcast on all the different platforms. And we'd love to hear if you have any comments or anything that you'd like us to talk about in the future. But as always, be good humans, and we will talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, bye.